Welcome to the March 16th meeting of the Humboldt County Association of Governments Board. At this time, we will call our meeting to order, and can we get a roll call?
Yes. I'll start the roll call with Supervisor Madrone. And Supervisor Madrone, since you are attending remotely due to your just cause, I do need for you to keep your video on for the entirety of the meeting. And if you could also disclose if there's anybody in the room with you at the age of 18 or older. You're muted.
There we go. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I will do everything I can to keep the video on. I am remote. The signal's weak. So if you see me drop, that's what's going on. At any rate, yeah, it's just cause I'm at a conference as a board supervisor.
Thank you. Mayor Jones?
Here.
Mayor Burgell? Councilmember Jorgensen?
Present.
Councilmember Atkins Salazar? Julie Woodall for Rio Dell. Councilmember West.
Here.
PAC Member Arroyo. PAC Member Allstrand.
Here.
And Chair Johnson.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will adjourn as the HCOG Board and reconvene as the Policy Advisory Committee. And our first order of business is a presentation on the Nichols Engineering Consultants and the completion of the Pavement Management Program.
Deborah Audi has joined us, and she'll be taking over on the presentation.
Yes, I'll share my screen. Okay, do you see my screen?
We do.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
And you're a tiny bit quiet, so if there's a way to turn things up on your end, that would be great.
Does it help anyway?
Yes.
Okay, I will probably hold my microphone close to my mouth. Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity to present the work we did over last 1 year with HCOG. We updated the pavement management program for 7 cities and 1 county and 4 tribes and rancherias. With that, I will be moving forward. So what a pavement management program? So the pavement management program, what it does, it helps us to make some cost-effective decisions. It actually answers 4 questions. We can have an inventory set up in the software where for the whole network. It will have all the length, width, how many lanes and areas and the type of pavement. So it can hold all this information for a whole network. And then we can collect some distress data, enter into the software. And the software can give us a rating, which is known as Pavement Condition Index, PCI, that will answer the second question, that what the condition or the network will be. The network can be in good condition, fair condition, poor condition, and failed condition, and I will go over that in a couple minutes. So this pavement management program also help us to know which street needs a repair and when, and what type of repair it needs. So it is very important to maintain a pavement in good condition so that it doesn't get so poor that you have to spend a lot more money to make it drivable. So all these questions we can answer to a pavement management program. And then we can also do some analysis. Like we know how much funding we had, a city or county can have, and then how much work you can achieve using that funding. Or if you want to reach a certain goal for a network, that a certain condition goal, then we can also do the analysis and get a budget amount to know that to reach a certain goal, how much money, extra money is needed. So all these questions actually help you to understand what's going on with the network for a city or county and how much funding deficiency you have and what you can do to gain more funding and eventually do a lot of work on your street so that it remains in good condition. So for this project that we did last year and this year, we actually inspected Humboldt County, the 7 cities, Arcata, Blue Lake, Eureka, Fondant, Fortuna, Riodale, and Trinidad. And we also did the update for Hoopa, Karuk, Trinidad, Rancheria, and York. So to actually update this pavement management program, there are a bunch of steps that we need to follow. First of all, we update the street saver inventory. So for the county and the cities, we already had the street saver inventory. So what we did, we only updated the inventory if they had any new streets or if there was a change of length or width, something doesn't line up. So all these changes you can do during a pavement management update. After we update the inventory, then we perform a pavement condition survey. So what it does in pavement condition survey, you can do it 2 ways. You can do a walking survey, and you can also do a semi-automated survey. Semi-automated survey is basically done using a vehicle, and it has radar and cameras on it. So as it goes, it collects the data, the pictures, and there is a person in the vehicle who actually rates the pavement as the vehicle moves forward. And with walking survey, the technician is out in the field walking, looking at the distresses, measuring, and taking notes. So during these surveys, we collect several types of data, like the distress type. And there are several distress type you would see on the pavement, which are known as either alligator cracking or rutting or thermal cracking or any kind of utility patches or distortion. So that's our technicians are certified to do all this training, all these surveys, and they go out and collect the data. So after they collect the data, we enter it in the street saver. And once we enter it in the street saver, we can actually do some calculations and analysis, and it gives us the rating of the pavement and of the network. So after we are done with the pavement condition survey, we do the pavement maintenance records. So what it does, if you have done any past work on the pavement, we can include that in the inventory. It helps you track that which streets have received the treatment in the past and what type of treatment, so that you have all the history in the database. And it helps you with the analysis, because if you treat a street last year, you don't want to treat that street this year. And that's the street way the pavement management program works, that they would help you identify the streets that only need the treatment, not the streets you have treated very recently. So we update all these pavement maintenance records in the database, and we worked with the city and the county to get the data and updated it. Next, what we did, we updated the maintenance decision tree. So what is that? Decision tree is very important. That means if you have a street in good condition, it will need a certain type of treatment. If you have a street in poor condition, it will need a different type of treatment. So this decision tree, we had a meeting with all the agencies, and we went through each of their maintenance practice to understand what they do and what they should do, what is recommended for a certain type of a street, so that we can update the treatment strategy and also the cost. Because eventually we need to know how much money you would need to preserve your pavement. So this updating the decision tree is very important, and then we did it with all the agencies. So next, we updated mapping feature. There is a feature called GIS Toolbox in the StreetSaver, where you can actually integrate your the map of the network in the database, and you can actually click on one street and it will give you all the information on that street. So we updated that maps for some of the agencies as well. The next one was perform budget needs analysis. So this analysis means that how much money an agency's network would need to maintain it at good condition. So it actually tells you how much money you need to bring back all your poor conditioned street in a good condition, so that you can maintain and you don't have to spend a lot of money in next few years. And next, we performed some budget scenarios. And I will go over that in a bit. The budget scenarios, basically, if an agency has a $2 million budget per year, what they would expect to see over 10 years if they keep spending $2 million per year. And finally, after we were done with all these tasks, inventory update, condition surveys, updating maintenance record, decision tree, maps, and analysis, we prepare a report. And those reports are, I believe, available online. And at the end, we also conducted a StreetSaver training to help educate the agencies that how to use the software, because this is a very user-friendly software. And if you know how to use it, you can actually enter all this kind of maintenance records and check the pavement condition or make some changes in the inventory, so it helps you track your network. Okay, so now that I kind of described the scope of the work we did, these are the agencies: Arcata, Blue Lake, Eureka, Fondant, Fortuna, Riodale, Trinidad, and County, and the center line miles. And we have the asset value. What does asset value mean? This asset value means that if a pavement network, how much money you would need to reconstruct the full network. Say for Arcata, the asset value is $120 million. That means that if they want to reconstruct 64 centerline miles, they would need $120 million. So this is your asset value for the pavement. It does not necessarily include the sidewalks or other asset components. So as you can see, for countywide, the asset value is $1.52 billion for HCOG. We also looked at Hoopa, Carew, Trinidad, Rancheria, New York, and we saw the asset value for these tribes and rancherias are $35.4 million. So I will spend a little bit of time in here just to kind of give an idea that when we do the survey, what the data we collect. So the data we collect, the distress type we collect, the final goal is to rate a pavement using this PCI, which is Pavement Condition Index. If a street has a pavement condition index between 70 to 100, you would hardly see any distress. There will be some cracks, but not much. The rides will not be very rough, and those streets are considered in good or very good condition category. If a PCI of a pavement between 50 to 70, you would expect to see some distresses, probably some rutting, probably some more network cracks on the pavement, and there might be a little bit of potholes. So all this, basically your pavement will start to show up lots of distress, and that will call the fair condition category. Under poor condition category, the PCI would be from 25 to 50, and the poor means it started to kind of fail, but not failed completely. So it will have a lots of distress, like the last picture you can see, which is a picture of failed street, but the poor street is kind of close to that you will see a lots of distress. And the failed street is with a PCI less than 25. So when a street falls below the PCI of 25, we called it failed. And at that moment, it needs reconstruction. So that's a candidate that you have to actually rehabilitate that pavement. So when we did all the analysis for the 7 cities and the county, we saw the county-wide average PCI is fair, which is 53, which is fair. But as you can see, it's kind of already lining towards a poor condition category, just 3 points over the poor condition. So it's very important to think about how you can actually keep maintaining your pavement and also improve it, the condition. So now the question that all this work we did, what are the PCIs of all the HCOG agencies? Because I just showed you only the countywide. So let's look at the PCI before the update. So last time in 2017, we also updated the pavement management program for all the cities and county. We did the same chain of works, and then we did the condition survey, and the PCI was this. It was 67 for Arcata, Blue Lake was 53, Eureka was 65, Ferndale was 52, Fortuna was 63, Humboldt County 55, Yodel 50. So all are kind of in fair condition category, except for Trinidad, which was in a good condition category because their PCI was above 70. Now, on the 2022 PCI update, after we did the work last year, we saw mostly a drop for most of all the agencies except for Fortuna and Riodel. So if we look at that, we see that Arcata dropped 3 points, Eureka dropped 6 points, Ferndale dropped 3 points, Humboldt County 6 points, and Trinidad 9 points. And I would also like to mention the statewide PCI. The statewide PCI for California is 66. It's actually the 2020 update, and we are currently doing 2022 update. We haven't published the report yet, but the statewide PCI has dropped 1 point, so it's 65 right now. So this kind of gives you an overall idea that how the PCI have changed from last update to this update per agency and the county. Like I said, we also did inspect and update the PMP, Pavement Management Program for tribes and rancherias. So as you can see, Hoopa has the highest, 69 PCI, Kuru 59, Trinidad 50, and Europe 46. And these are the condition categories. So like I said, that green is good, fair is blue, yellow is poor, and of course red means failed. So as you can see, Karuk and Hoopa doesn't have any streets in failed condition category, whereas York and Trinidad have some. So this kind of helps you look at the breakdown of how much percent you have in each condition category, so that when you do the analysis, you can focus on which area needs to be taken care of. Okay, so now the most important part of this PMP update. Many of you have seen this pavement deterioration curve. This is a very basic and very important curve. What it says that on the y-axis, you have pavement condition index, which is PCI, which is based on the data we collect in the field. And the x-axis is the percent of pavement life. So like I said, if a pavement falls under a PCI of 25, it is considered failed. So what this condition curve, deterioration curve is showing is that while your pavement is in good condition in this green zone, you can actually spend less money and preserve your pavement. If you do not preserve your pavement, it will eventually fall in blue region and yellow region where you have to spend more money. So it is always very important to be proactive treatment performed to preserve the pavement condition, because this will cost a lot less compared to rehabilitation of a failed street, which is very, very expensive. So the street saver actually, any kind of PMP program actually follows this condition of maintaining a pavement in good condition and optimize the pavement treatment category and then minimize the cost. So that's why this pavement curve is very important. And all the analysis is kind of based on this curve, that where the street falls under this curve. So when we decide on a decision tree that what treatment you should apply, if you have a street in your green zone or blue zone or yellow zone or red zone, the way we decide, discuss with the cities and counties, and then understand what their practice are, and then recommend what they should actually do. And then we come look at their bid tabs from the recent construction work, and then we try to get the cost, because this cost, the street saver will use in the analysis to give you the numbers to tell you that this much money you need to maintain, or this much money you need to improve your condition index of the network. So this is a typical decision tree that we prepared for the agency, that typically you'd expect to do just some types of surface sill when your street is in good condition, just kind of slurry sill, or if it's a rural road, you can use single chip sill. If it's falling towards the blue category, it's usually mill and thin overlay. That means you are actually spending a little bit more money. You need to do like mill off the distressed surface and then put back some HMA, and HMA cost is really higher compared to any kind of surface sill. As it falls into a poor condition category, like between 25 to 50, you would need more robust structure, that because it is failing. So we typically propose mill and thick overlay. Thick overlay means more than 2 inches, and thin overlay means less than 2 inches. So as you can see, if it's thick overlay, then you need more HMA, it needs more cost. So these are the unit cost that kind of gives you a comparison that if your streets are falling into all this condition category, how much more money you need to treat those streets. To reconstruct when it's failed, to reconstruct the street, it would need $109.75 per square yard. And these are kind of an ballpark estimate. It can vary a little bit based on agencies. So now let's look at how have the maintenance costs changed since 2017, because this is very important, before pandemic and post-pandemic. So in 2017, we saw the surface sill like a slurry arch. There are some variations, but this is kind of an average cost. Surface sill would cost $4.25 per square yard. Overlay treatment that I showed, that mill and overlay, that you mill off the surface and put back some HMA on top of it, that will cost $41 per square yard. And reconstruction, which is like probably ripping off the pavement and then put back a new pavement, that's $62 per square yard. Now, in 2022, we have seen the surface sill has been around $7. Overlay treatment has gone up to $62. Could be, it depends on how much thick you are going and also how much dig outs you're doing. And it kind of can vary from agencies to agencies. However, I like to say this is kind of an average ballpark number. And the reconstruction we have seen, it went up actually really high, over $90. So overall, it has increased, I would say, more than 50% since 2017. So now let's look at what are the 10-year funding needs for each agency. like I said, the needs mean it represents the cost associated with performing all MNR treatments at the optimal time. And optimal meaning is PCI is maximized and the cost is minimized. So that's the analysis the payment management program will do for you to tell you if you spend the money right at this time, then you will expect to see a high PCI, but you can actually don't have to spend a lot of money. So it actually uses that preventative maintenance strategy to do that analysis. So let's look at this needs. For Arcata, like you can see, it's $47 million. Blue Lake Eureka has $1.1 million, because this depends on the current condition of the network and size of the network, and also the decision tree. Like if an agency wants to do just surface sale, even if it's kind of in fair condition category, some agency might do a thin mill and overlay. And this kind of change in treatment will change in unit cost, and thus it will change in the needs. So an agency's, if it has more streets in failed condition, it will see a higher needs compared to a street, an agency that has more good streets. So, and of course, it depends on the network. If it's a bigger network, the needs will be bigger. So these are overall needs for all the agencies over 10 years. And this is the county. Of course, the county has the highest number of lane miles. It has 1,200 lane miles. So it has the biggest need among all the agencies under HCOG. Now let's look at the part where what's the available funding, because what we need to do that we now saw the needs, that how much an agency's network will need to maintain their network in good condition. Now we need to know how much money they have so that we can look at the deficiency. So this chart is showing annual budget, which is dollar per year. As you can see, the Arcata has $2 million, Blue Lake 560,000, Eureka 3 million. So these are showing dollar per year that they have right now to spend on pavement network. If I normalize it in one unit, which is available budget per center line miles, as we can see that these are the numbers. So these are kind of the common unit. You can compare that. Blue Lake has the highest number for their center line miles, whereas the county has the lowest, where it needs more money. Okay, so this chart actually shows you what are the needs versus available funding. So available budget is this blue bar, which is showing that if your need is 100%, that means your budget is able to meet only 42% of the need. You still have funding deficiency for 58%. So as you can see that Blue Lake had the highest budget per centerline miles, it's kind of meeting its goal, whereas Ferndale and County has like more than 95%, that's the budget is not being able to meet the needs. So this kind of gives you an overall picture that how much funding deficiency you have for your network. So now that we know the agencies have funding deficiency, because we always know that the budget is never enough, the need is always higher than the available budget. What is the impact of this existing budget? So like I showed you before, this is the 2017 PCI, and this is the 2022 PCI based on the data we collected last year. And 2032, this is the projected PCI. When we do the analysis, the Street Saver tells us that if you spend this money for 10 years, you would expect to see the PCI this much at the end of your analysis period. So this yellow bars are showing if you keep spending this money and if you don't have an increase in your funding level, the current existing funding level, then all the agencies will show a drop in the PCI. So as you can see, this will almost be in the next condition category because below 50, it's considered poor. It will be kind of the verge of the poor. It will fall under poor condition, blue lake. Eureka will be 48. So as you can see, all the agencies um, will see a decline in PCI. The Humboldt County will be in failed condition almost because a PCI below 25 is considered the street is failed. So this is actually very helpful information to know what your existing budget is doing to your funding level, to your network versus how much money you actually need to maintain or to improve your PCI. So now let's look at the current condition. This is actually showing you the breakdown because the PCI is just one number. It doesn't actually give you the whole picture. If you look at the breakdown of the condition category, then it tells you more story that how much street you have in good condition versus how much in failed condition. So the first bar is showing current condition, and the last bar, second bar, is showing 2032 projected condition. So it might show that the green has increased. That means you will see more streets in good condition in 2032. But look at this. Your failed condition streets will increase as well. That's why your PCI, overall PCI will decrease. So it's very important to understand the distribution of network under each condition category. We shouldn't be really happy seeing this, but we should be worried like, okay, this red is increasing, so what we should do about that. So the first one is current and the second one is projected. So this is for Arcata. This is for Blue Lake. Again, as you can see, the Blue Lake currently have only 4.1% in failed condition. But as you move forward, it's going to be almost half, like 44.6%, not 50%, but almost there. So that's kind of tells you the story that how much actually it's important to spend more money to maintain your condition of the pavement. So this is Eureka, Farndale, Fortuna, County. For the county, you can see the good condition will decrease and the red condition, like the failed condition, will be more than 50%. Riodale and Trinidad. So for most of them, you will see that the person network in good condition is increasing. Arcata, Blue Lake, Eureka, Fortuna. But because, like I say, the Street Saver uses this strategy of spending more money on preventative maintenance, meaning maintain the good pavement in good condition and then spend the money on the poor pavements. So, but still, if you do not have enough money, you will eventually see a lots of street getting failed. Now let's look at how much additional funding you need just to maintain current PCI. If you want to know that, okay, I know we have funding shortages, so we don't want to improve the PCI, but how much money we need just to maintain the current PCI. So this is the existing funding. Arcata has 2 million, Blue Lake, Eureka has 3 million, Fortuna 0.55, Riodale and Trinidad. Now, this much money you need to actually maintain at its current condition. And the current condition is, say, for Arcata, the current PCI is 64. To maintain the 64 PCI for next 10 years, Arcata will actually need $3.2 million per year, whereas it has $2 million per year. Same with the Blue Lake, it will need a total. So the Blue Lake is kind of in a little bit better condition to maintain. It would need $0.4 million per year. However, it has a little bit more money than it needs to maintain the PCI. And Eureka, you can see it has $3 million per year, but it would need 6.9 million, almost double, to maintain the current PCI. This is Ferndale, Fortuna, Riodale, and Trinidad. And this is the county. The county only has $2 million per year, but it needs a lot more money because, like I said, whereas all these cities all the centerline miles combining, county has more centerline miles. It has 1,200 centerline miles. So it needs $34.3 million to maintain its current PCI at 49. So the county-wide 10-year available funding is actually $82 million if you sum this up. But the 10-year funding to maintain the current condition, like wherever they are now, it needs $488 million. So we are kind of at the end of the presentation. Conclusions. HCOG has a substantial investment in pavement network, which is $1.5 billion. County-wide network is a fair condition with a PCI of 53. Treatment unit costs have increased by kind of more than 50% since the last update. 10-year funding needs is $786 million. And if you transfer it to dollar per centerline miles, that would be $570,000 per centerline miles. 10-year funding deficit is $704 million. So this is based on the available funding level countywide. So some policy considerations like what you can do to get a better results, like smaller cities can collaborate with larger entities to take advantage of economies of scale, like project bundling. Then you can get more competitive bids and reduce cost, and then also some repetitive costs like design and construction management and inspection, those can be reduced overall. That can be a really good option to do that. Leverage local funding as match for federal or state funds like IIJA. This new law that has been passed Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Job Acts. This law authorized $1.2 trillion for transportation infrastructure. So this is a good opportunity to look for these funding sources as well. Leverage any utility projects to include paving. So if your utility company is cutting into your pavement, you can actually ask to do that restoration for you, so that you don't have to like repave it. So with that, I think that's end of my slide. If you have any questions, but happy to answer.
Thank you. Does anybody have a question or a comment? Mayor Jones, or did you have some? No. Okay. Mayor Burgell.
Thank you for that great presentation. I have a question. Just with the impacts recently, I mean, those numbers are going to go up substantially, don't you think, considering we've had several emergencies and since 2022? So,
Yes.
I mean, looking at those numbers, probably there is no idea what that could look like, or do you know what the new numbers?
You mean with all the emergency fundings, the funding will be lower, and then what the impact will be?
Yeah.
I mean, this is based on so we conducted this inspection in last year in July or August timeframe, and this analysis is based on at that moment what the data we collected, like how much funding was available. So if it changes, it definitely will impact the payment condition.
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
Yeah.
Deborah, if an emergency on a road occurred that if emergency occurred on a failed road, something you had already noted was failed or in very poor condition, would it change that analysis at all in terms of, let's say there was a big landslide, but that road was already noted as failed? Would that change your funding numbers at all? No.
No.
Any other questions or Supervisor Madrone?
Thank you. Hey, Zoom works. Hand up. Yeah. First off, fantastic presentation. It's really nice to be able to see all this comparative data. And I have to say, I'm not surprised at the county. I am a county supervisor. And the results of your study pretty much reinforce what I think all of us know, because all of us use the county roads, right?
Yes.
And it has the greatest need. It has the smallest budget for its need. I was impressed. I mean, Arcata's doing something right. $2 million. That's all we got for the whole county, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting results. And I'm sure as a board, we'll have some lively discussions around how to prioritize projects with a limited pool of money. I also commend you on your recommendations. Those are some concrete examples of things we can all do to try and stretch the money a little bit further. So thank you for your presentation. Great job.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none? Well, thank you very much for that. I remember the very first pavement management program that was done about 12, 15 years ago, and it's changed quite a bit since then. So, but thank you for all you've done. Thank you for, at that time, teaching us in Public Works how to use that tool, and thank you for giving it to us. So, thank you.
Anytime. You're welcome. Thank you.
At this time, we will look for public comment on non-agenda items. If you would like to address anything that is not on the agenda, this is the time to come forward or raise your hand if you're online. Don't see anything, so we will move on to the consent calendar. We have the meeting minutes, the TDA 2% bike and ped set aside, a project request from the city of Arcata, the city of Ferndale's TDA and LTF claim, the city of Trinidad's TDA and LTF claim, and the federal fiscal year 2023 FTA 5311 authorizing resolution, and finally our fiscal year 22-23 low carbon transit operations program. And does anybody wish to pull anything? See nothing. We'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve the calendar, the consent calendar.
I'll second that, Jones.
So we have a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call?
Supervisor Madrone,
Yes.
Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Burgell,
Yes.
Councilmember Jorgensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Woodall,
Yes.
Councilmember West,
Yes.
PAC member Allstrand,
Yes.
and Chair Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. And we have no action items and no informational items at this time. So by motion, we will reconvene as the HCOG board and approve the PAC recommendations. Do we have a motion?
I so move.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. One more roll call there, Debbie.
Supervisor Madrone,
Yes.
Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Burgell,
Yes.
Councilmember Jorgensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Woodall,
Yes.
Councilmember West,
Yes.
and Chair Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And thank you. We come now to HCOG staff and PAC member reports, beginning with our executive director's report.
Thanks. I have just a couple of updates. One is the update from the CHP for the supplemental patrols. This is just for February. So in the past, we saw really big numbers, and that was because we had several months combined. But if we pay attention to the deployments, we'll see that they are still very busy. Each deployment really is helping drivers. So in February, on State Route 36, they did just 3 deployments. They did have 1 arrest for a DUI, 1 citation, no verbal warnings warnings, but they did assist 6 motorists in those 3 deployments. And on State Route 96, they did just 2 deployments with no citations or verbal warnings, but they did assist 8 motorists during those 2 deployments. So still, I think very valuable to have those extra patrols out there. And then staffing wise, I'll just note that we have been working through our solicitation for a final or our hiring for an administrative services officer. And we're in the final stages of negotiation on that. So I'm hopeful that by next month, we'll be introducing you to our new staff members. So looking forward to that. And that's it for my report.
Any questions or comments?
Did you receive a report from the 101 Safety Corridor from the Eureka Police Department?
No, as far as we know, they are still not able to supplement those patrols because of staffing.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay. And with that, we'll move to the Caltrans report.
Yeah, I have a few updates, but I wanted to start by introducing Brandon Larson. He's the new Deputy Director for Planning and Local Assistance. So I don't know, Brandon, if you want to say anything.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's good to see everybody. Yes, I'm the new Deputy District Director for Planning and Local Assistance. And if you would like any Caltrans updates from me or Tasha, I can chime in and give you any updates. I can also give the group here an update on Fernbridge as well.
That would be a good idea.
All right, that sounds good. So we are moving forward with the 55-hour closure starting Friday night, 10 o'clock. And it's going to go through the weekend, hopefully opening for 5 a.m. Monday morning. And then once that's done, we'll have it open to 2-way traffic. So no more traffic control on Fernbridge. We've been partnering with Humboldt County and making sure that things are in place for access to Ferndale. We've also partnered very close with the police chief in the city of Ferndale, as well as the fire chief, so that emergency services can be addressed during this closure. So, and right now, weather permitting, we're hanging in there, and we're gonna be able to move forward with this. So hopeful that we can get this closure done, we get the work done this weekend, and we can move forward with getting the structure open to full 2-way traffic. So it got pretty darn close with the high river there on, yesterday it peaked out at 22.4 feet. It was getting pretty darn close to the staging area there on the south end of the structure. So, but now it's come down quite a bit. I just came across the structure about 2 hours ago, and it's come down to 12 feet, the Eel River. So it's dropped 10 feet. So we're looking good. And the forecast is looking like it's going to hold together just enough for us for Friday night and Saturday to get the work done that we need to get done.
So at the North State deal, you gave us an update on the impact of the storms on Caltrans infrastructure and dollar-wise. And also, do you have anything to report on Cooks Valley and that?
Right. So at Cooks Valley, that's that slip out we have there. We're calling it Milky Way. It's the slip out we have on the Mendocino-Humboldt County line. And we have secured $20 million to move forward with a permanent restoration at that location. So the team is actively working on designing what needs to be done there to permanently restore that site. Right now, we have a drill rig on site putting soil nails in to help stabilize that as an emergency opening process. So we're trying to do what we can to arrest that slide and keep it under control so we can keep one lane of traffic open at that location.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yep.
Do you have anything?
I do have a few more updates. In addition to Brandon, there are some other new structures within our traffic safety and operations. So Sherry Rodriguez stepped into Tom Fitzgerald's previous role of overseeing traffic safety, permits, operations, and TMS electrical. And then Andreas Kraus is now our new district's traffic safety senior. And then Paul Haley, new senior over work zone operations and mobility programs, and that's formerly known as traffic operations. So if anybody wants contact information for any of those people, I can get that to you. Quick updates on Clean California. The local grant program is now open for applications due on April 28th. On Saturday, March 25th, there's a Clean California Community Festival that will be underneath the Samoa Bridge from noon to 4. It's free and family friendly. There'll be music and dancing and art, food trucks, exhibits, games, prizes. We'll also be handing out $35,000 in free dump day vouchers to participants while supplies last, so pretty cool. There's also Community Days, March 17th through 27th, where you can sign up for a community cleanup or challenge other groups. And then we have a groundbreaking and partnership ceremony in Hoopa this Saturday from 2 to 3 at Pukis Park in Hoopa, and the Caltrans District Director will be a keynote speaker. I know that you're always interested in the US 101-299 Merge Improvement Project, and the bid opening is scheduled for March 30th, so construction pretty soon after. And then the fiscal year 23-24 Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Program call for applications closed on March 9th, and we received a total of 12 applications. There were 8 for the sustainable communities, 1 from HCOG and 1 from the City of Arcata, and then 4 applications for the climate adaptation, 1 from the Trinidad Rancheria. So we're expecting announcements this August. Thanks.
Awesome. Any questions, comments? No? Well,
We do have a question, Supervisor Madrone.
oh, I always miss the hand. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to thank all of the personnel at Caltrans for their incredible work all winter long, clearing trees, dealing with slides, dealing with slumps, and Julia Peterson and the Clean California Days, and just amazing work going on there for all our communities. So really just a big shout out and thank you to everybody at Caltrans for all of the things you're doing in our community. So thank you very much, Brandon, and all.
Much appreciated, Supervisor Madrone. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for saying that.
And I've been by the Samoa Vance Avenue parklet, and that thing's holding up well. It's not being defaced or torn up. It's holding its own. So I appreciate that. So there we are now, and we don't have any PAC member reports. You've done the Caltrans report. So with that, if there is nothing further, we will adjourn.